My name is Josephine El Haddad. I'm the Public Affairs and Communications Manager at World Vision Lebanon. I have been working on the ItTakesAWorld to End Violence Against Children campaign since 2018. And with me, there is Joumana and there's Sirine. Joumana, can you please introduce yourself?
Hello, my name is Joumana Micaelin, and I'm the managing partner of PIMO Agency, Communication and Advertising in Lebanon and the Levant area. Since our motto is welcome to the age of 8, so we were always ready to approach NGOs because this resonates with our DNA to be part of any social problem, especially that you are living in a country where all the help that it might need to evolve in any subject is welcome.
And Sirine, how are you?
Hi, I'm good.
My name is Sirine. I'm a member of the youth committee. I participated in several initiatives with World Vision around child rights. Most recently, I was hosting the See Us, Lebanon's Crisis as Told by Children initiative as It Takes a World campaign, and participated in the forum where we faced parliamentarians with the economic impact on us.
Thank you, Sirine. Thank you, Joumana.
To give an overview of the campaign in Lebanon, so when the It Takes a World campaign was launched globally, we looked at the issues facing children in Lebanon in terms of violence. And of course, there are several types of violence facing children, but we saw that violent child discipline was something very prevalent in our communities. We wanted it to be evidence-based, so we did a national segmentation research that showed that parents and caregivers were resorting to violent practices in the process of raising their children, but at the same time, they showed openness to altering to positive practices. However, in 2019, we all know that the uprising started in Lebanon, and with it, the major economic collapse and the political paralysis. And then there was COVID and the indefinite lockdowns and confinement and the increase in stressors facing parents, which they reported. But at the same time, children reported a spike in violence within the household. Joumana, I believe it was then when you reached out to us saying that you want to support us in the second phase of the It Takes a World campaign, because the first phase was really raising awareness about our findings in the research that showed that VCD was something very prevalent across the different areas in Lebanon, across the different classes, the classes of the people, whether educated or non-educated. So phase 2, we had to take action. And this is when you reached out to us. Can you please tell me what intrigued you about this campaign and this cause specifically?
So basically what triggered us and interested us to be part of this campaign is to highlight this major and predominant issue and to try to raise awareness and mobilize key actors to take action. Because as you mentioned, it wasn't happening only in low-end society. It was happening, and the children were violated by most social classes, because this was the only way that parents could express their.
It's a cultural thing,
and it's a cultural thing, unfortunately. So we had to raise this awareness and create a movement with us in order to highlight this issue in a more creative way, to be able to be closer to these children and be able to be of help.
Yes, of course. Can you elaborate more on how it came to life? Like what were the actions taken? What did the media campaign consist of?
So basically, as you know, we were living in a very difficult period at that time, whereby there was this global pandemic, the crisis situation, economic situation that we were facing, the COVID, and unfortunately the blast that took place. So we felt all that we needed to take action. So what we did is we noticed that this also violence that it was happening with the children did not affect them only in the present, but it will affect them in the future, in their behavior, and probably they will become violent with their children in the future. So we had to create something creatively that resonates with everybody, even with the parents that are violating their kids, to create an alarming awakening to stop this violence.
And I mean, in the research, as I mentioned, we sensed some sort of openness to change this behavior. Like, parents told us if we knew other practices, we would implement them or resort to these positive practices. And at the same time, parents cannot go to professionals because they cannot afford them, and it was confinement and there was the economic crisis. So here we thought of the online parenting support. Yes. Can you tell us about this alternative free?
So this alternative free platform that was created on Facebook was created basically to help these parents who acknowledge what they are doing and they acknowledge the best thing that they are doing, but they cannot go to special people, psychologists, and because it is very expensive. So they had to, they were supposed to, connect to this platform and get some help online from specialists, from moms like them, and be able to talk about their experience and get some help about how to change their behavior towards their children.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell us more, like, on a campaigning on a media level, what was done?
So basically, since the implication of the violence was on the children, on their future as well, so we brainstormed at the agency to see how we can highlight this effect on the children for the future. So what we did is we worked on a 360-degree campaign. Okay, TV, radio, billboard, on-ground, social media, where the main object or the main tool was balloons representing the positive emotions of the children. For example, whenever you are violent with the kid, you feel that this positive emotion will disappear. His trust in himself will disappear. He will lack love. He will lack confidence. So all these, when disappearing, you will end up having a child with nothing for the future. So we highlighted all this in a creative way. You will see it in the video that you will be broadcasting to see how it was highlighted. In addition to this, we had to mobilize key actors and influential people. So we did approach more than 30 influential people and opinion leaders. Most of them were moms, businessmen, TV anchors, doctors, psychologists, who most of them have children, and they know the effect of violence on their children, where they received these balloons and they made velfeeds and talked about the effect with their children about this campaign and how bad it is to violate your kids and express verbal and physical violence towards them.
Exactly. Like, a priority for us was not to point fingers at parents, because they said that they didn't know any better. They admitted that this is wrong. But at the same time, they were going through extremely tough times.
True.
That, they had to make very difficult choices. They
have to manage several things at the same time.
Exactly.
So our objective was to educate them, telling them that we understand your worries, we understand this difficult situation that you are in, but there is an alternative. We are here for you. Call us on this platform. We can help you as much as possible. Be careful, because this will affect your children more for a long time.
A priority of ours was not to point fingers and really judge parents, because we understood what they were going through. You know, from your parents, I'm a parent, everyone knows.
And most of the time they regret what they did.
Of course, and they admitted that this is wrong. They knew that this is wrong. They also said that they were open to positive
and help.
And yes, at positive practices, to learn positive practices. So this was the essence of the campaign, to show support to parents.
So these balloons of childhood were like in a very simple way a nice way to highlight this emergency to these parents to wake up, and at the same time to take care of the children in a different way and seek help and make sure that their future are safe. Save them.
True.
This is the most important.
Exactly. And World Vision's child protection specialists were feeding in content on the platform, very timely content, very timely with what is happening in the country, with whatever the parents are facing, with the messages that we've been receiving on the direct messaging, asking us for help in specific subjects. And they were giving one-on-one support to parents. My favorite part or stunt of the campaign was the part that we broadcasted on the live news bulletin.
Yes, and what we did is we took the viewers by surprise on a leading TV station
at the peak time.
At the peak time during the weather forecast. So instead of seeing the weather forecast man, talking about the weather, the sunny days, because we were in the middle of summer, we had by surprise a kid talking about the cloudy and stormy days that any child suffering from violence is feeling. So this was an amazing stunt, and it was live, and it was shared by most influencer and opinion leaders on social media platforms to also create this awakening and create this emotional bond with the mothers.
So in parallel to the media campaign that you mentioned, Joumana, we were having our own advocacy efforts to tackle specifically Article 186 and Law 422 of the Lebanese law, which really addressed violent child discipline in rather a vague manner. They left a margin for parents to if they hit their children and their children do not bruise, it can go unpunished.
Yeah.
So we wanted to address this and to change this in order to ensure that children are safe and such violations can go punished. So we teamed up with several local NGOs, with several INGOs, and with several ministries that really have a lot to do with this issue, such as the Ministry of Social Affairs, the Ministry of Justice, and the Ministry of Health, and several other ministries. We created a task force, and we developed an action plan to address these issues. Unfortunately, as we mentioned, there is the political paralysis, and the parliament, the legislative authority in the country no longer adjourned due to this political paralysis. This all affected children, Sirine, right? Can you tell me what are children and youth suffering from nowadays? What are the conditions of their everyday life? Well, to mention that, yes, violent child discipline is something that most parents in Lebanon resort to, as they were raised as such. But right now, children are facing other issues, other serious problems.
Sure.
They're not eating, they're not going to schools, they're not receiving medical care. Basically, they're not receiving their basic needs and rights. As a result of people losing their money, which are stuck in banks, the local currency collapsing, and losing their jobs and other problems and issues. So yeah, true. So the economic collapse was a game changer, definitely, to this campaign.
It affected, most of 80% of the population in Lebanon. Yeah.
So when, again, violent child discipline, it was an issue that all classes, all communities in Lebanon had in common. But now the economic collapse was something that not just the vulnerable communities were affected,
even elite classes.
Everyone was affected. And violent child discipline is something that is still prevalent. We cannot deny that. But in the face of what Sirine mentioned, children not eating, children not going to school, and parents losing their jobs, parents losing their savings, a lot of serious issues really
emerge and peaked. Yeah, because I had one major objective is to feed their kids.
It's really
the main, focus at that time.
Exactly. And we started seeing a spike in child labor, a major increase in early marriage, but most importantly, we saw a massive increase in school dropouts. And we will give a bit of context because teachers were striking due to low pay. Teachers were getting paid as low as $20 and $30 a month. So the public schools closed. Even parents, they could not, if their children went to public schools, they could not pay for transportation
or for books or for the basic
exactly, or the stationery, the uniform, even snacks. So at a time in January, there was a time in January where almost 1 million children were out of school, and this was the game changer for us. We know that bringing children back to school, or the issue of school dropouts, was not violence by itself, but we saw an increase in school dropouts. Children were either at home doing nothing, or children were
deprived from their basic needs.
Exactly. They were resorting to, so we saw an increase in child labor, an increase in early marriage. So as a result of school dropouts, all of this increase. Yeah. So we saw that there is an urgent need to switch to advocating to bring children back to school or to retain children, because we knew that this issue was not going to end today or tomorrow. It's actually going to get worse, and more children are going to end up out of school. So as always, we rely on either evidence or child and youth engagement, but we did both. And when we had the evidence in our hand, and which is a research called Caregivers' Perceptions on Education and Child Labor, and we saw that parents' perceptions on education, the importance of education, was deteriorating. And this is when I gave you a call and I told you, we have something new we need to advocate for together.
So here again, when we were confronted to this heartbreaking news, and we found that, unfortunately, who is the most vulnerable person to be trapped in this? It was the parent. So unfortunately, due to this economic situation, the children felt trapped in their own houses as a prisoner because they couldn't go to school anymore. They couldn't do anything, whether staying at home all day or subject to laboring, in order to help their parents to have the minimum, basic needs to eat and help the parents in this. So we said that here again, we had to do something and create a campaign, especially that we had a look on the figures, alarming figures that you shared with us. So what we did is we created an infographic, video that was also to alarm the government and to tell them, you are busy with doing something else, or we have a lot of problems, but this is an alarming problem because this is the future of the current generation. If most of the kids will drop out of school, we will end up with no future relation. So this is how we start working on this campaign.
Yeah. So in addition, our target audience at the time was the government to impose reforms, to find a solution to the education sector collapsing. But at the same time, we wanted to ensure that donors are committed to prioritizing children and the education of children in Lebanon. So it was a two-way advocacy that we were doing.
Definitely. So from one side, we created the awareness with compelling messaging, with, knocking at the door to opinion leaders, to journalists to talk about this subject. And we produced a TVC that also highlighted the several kinds of child laboring, where we highlighted some kids in early age working and holding bags, grocery bags, in order to, create this alarming wow effect when you see this on TV.
And you also highlighted which was evident in our research, the children who were staying at home idle, not working, which was also very dangerous because they can end up having drugs.
Exactly. So this is also alarming and was highlighted in the video as well. In addition to the video and to many other communication, we crafted the campaign that struck the chord with individuals. So we created a community on social media whereby we created a challenge with main opinion leaders, mothers, TV anchors who did, a Venfi or a picture holding a paper where they wrote on it, "Take children back to school." So in this way, they challenged themselves and created awareness on all their platform, whereby even their followers did the same. So at that point, we had like a huge engagement with the social media community about this subject.
And it was evident that it was a subject that really resonated to everyone, all mothers, all parents, all fathers, even people who aren't parents. They were individuals who were worried about children because they were foreseeing that schools are closing.
Yes, and their future are at risk.
So for me, it was really good that we made the choice of really focusing on the very important issue of education and children's education, as you mentioned, the very important right of children, which is free education for all.
And we had a very important person who was the advocate of the campaign, his name is Ricardo Caram, who is a father, a TV anchor, a presenter, and who accompanied us during this campaign, talking about the alarming figures and the emergency to take action and to be part of the challenge as well.
And other than the influential figures, I mean, you were receiving requests and messages for people to give individual help to see, like, how can we do something to change this?
Because, I mean, this engagement was so powerful, and because it resonates with everybody, we received a lot of feedbacks from followers, from local important people, businessmen, international people who wanted to help. They were asking us, how can we be of help? How we can donate? How we can take in charge some kids who want to go to school? How you can put us in contact with these families? So this was really very, very soliciting for us and challenging, because we wanted to see how we can help these families to go through this hard economic situation.
So the wider plan was to target the government to apply reforms and to save the education sector, the donors to ensure continuous funding or to prioritize children and put them at the center of the response to this economic crisis and their education specifically. But as you mentioned, and with individuals asking to support, we saw some change where individuals were helping on an individual level and saving the academic journey of a child on their own personal level. Exactly. So another pillar from our own advocacy and the media campaigning, it is always so important for us to really, as I mentioned, hear from children and engage children in the advocacy efforts. We worked with you and 100 of your friends and youth members and child council members across the different areas in Lebanon, whether Lebanese children or refugee children. Can you share what was the purpose of this initiative, the See Us, Shufuna in Arabic, Lebanon's crisis as told by children?
Yeah, sure. So World Vision asked me and my friends to create blogs and illustrations around how the crisis affected us. So some of us spoke about them dropping out of school as their parents can't afford transportation anymore, as you said. And others spoke about stress and their mental health. And other children drew themselves in the cold as their parents couldn't afford heating anymore. But I guess most of us spoke about education. You can find the videos on World Vision Lebanon's social media accounts. After that, a forum was organized where we faced parliamentarians who attended, in addition to ambassadors, with the impact of the crisis on us, and we asked them to commit to changing our realities. and to protect our future and education, and they pledged to do the best they can.
Did you feel empowered?
Yeah, definitely. Obviously, yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was great.
So after the CS initiative, in which we learned what are the concerns of the children, and after the forum in which you guys were vocal about it, this is how we knew what to really advocate for. We had one-on-one meetings with parliamentarians. We asked them to pass the state budget. As you know, passing the state budget in Lebanon is a challenge. And in the state budget, to include an increase in the salaries of the public servants, among them public school teachers. And after a couple of weeks, the state budget passed, the teachers received the increase in their salaries, and schools opened their doors. However, this did not last long. The local currency, as you know, devaluated more, and we're back to square one. Teachers are still striking due to low pay. And again, the devaluation of the local currency means more and more families are moving into more poverty. Thus, they are resorting to not sending their children to schools. The coming school year faces more challenges, unfortunately, more than the past school years, because as you know, the non-public schools, the private schools or the semi-private, they are asking for a dollarized tuition, whereas many hundreds, even thousands of parents still receive salaries if they have jobs in Lebanese pounds in the local currency, which means they will not be able to send their kids to school. Exactly, they will not be able to afford that in the absence of public schools, which are still closed due to the strikes of the teachers. World Vision will continue our extensive advocacy efforts towards the government of Lebanon. We plead to our donors to ensure that children remain in schools and those who have dropped out to continue their journey in a classroom, to be able to secure a future for the children in Lebanon. We will continue our advocacy efforts, as I mentioned, to make sure that these children are fully educated.
We should, and we'll be here next to you to continue with this amazing path, because after all, the kids and the children are the future of Lebanon.
And they deserve this. You are the future.
That's it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Joumana. Thank you, Sirine. Thank you. Thank you.